Alright, good evening folks, it's Enforcer Matt and welcome back to another short war video, and today we have very big news coming out of Ukraine, Russia, the Middle East, and also the United States. But by far our biggest news of the day is last night we saw the Ukrainian armed forces launch a major ATACMS missile strike on the Russian mainland, resulting in significant damage to a Russian base, and we have all the aftermath on video to show you today. And of course, we are now hearing threats coming out of Russia once more that they will attack Ukraine in an unprecedented way, and now we're hearing from US intelligence that apparently Russia's planning on launching another Iranian missile at Ukraine, perhaps at a major city, in the coming days, and we're hearing warnings coming from the US Kyiv embassy to be ready to take shelter. So that is a big situation happening right now. And also in Syria, we're getting word that the Russian forces are now blockading a city there and preventing US forces from entering that city, causing a bit of a showdown. And on another front here in the United States, we are getting word from a US congressman that the drone spotted above New Jersey may actually be Iranian in origin. So that is some new news we're getting today. But with that, we'll be moving into our first article here, which goes to Status 6 military and conflict news. And like I mentioned, we did see a major attack inside of Russia last night from Ukrainian forces, and right here we do see the video of explosions heard in the city of Taganrog in the Rostov Oblast of Russia a short time ago, and this was posted last night around the beginning of our stream. So let's take a look at this attack and see what the Ukrainians did. So you can hear a large explosion in the background. And it sounds like actually several large explosions. This is in Taganrog, Russia, and this is being filmed by a civilian on the sides of the street. So there you go, a very major explosion on video right there, and we actually got this footage last night around stream time. So this attack was happening during the stream, and we got the aftermath of the damage today. So moving on to our next post here, this one goes to Nexta, and we can see here that the Russian Ministry of Defense confirms Ukraine's overnight attack in the Rostov region, and the ministry claims that 6 ATACMS missiles were fired at a military airfield, 2 of which were shot down and 4 deflected by electronic warfare systems. And they said, quote unquote, this is from the Russian Ministry of Defense, they said, as a result of falling missile fragments, there are casualties among personnel, there was no destruction, and 2 buildings in the technical area of the airfield and 3 military vehicles sustained minor shrapnel damage along with civilian cars in a nearby parking lot. And also the ministry once again threatened retaliatory strikes against Ukraine. But as you're about to see in the video here, this was a lie coming from the Russians. There was damage, and also many things were caught on fire by these ATACMS missiles. So let's take a look and see the damage. Alright, and you can see there is hell in the background right there. It's just a fire everywhere. It's glowing orange. That looks like damage to me, and this guy's going to crawl over here to this fence and show us over it just slightly here. And you can see there is a lot of stuff on fire. That is from one of the ATACMS missile strikes, and that was just one of them. So we're not really sure exactly what was caught on fire here, but there surely was a lot of damage, and we just don't know exactly what was hit. But one thing we know for certain is the Russians once again lied about what was hit, and we can see it right there. There was something hit right there in the military airfield. So it did happen, and there is video evidence of it. But with that, we're jumping into our next article here, which once again goes to Status 6 military and conflict news. And in this post here, we get some more reiteration of exactly what happened with these ATACMS missiles, and we also got this photo here showing the remains of an ATACMS shell lying in the middle of the street in Taganrog, Russia, proving that the missiles did hit the area, and there was part of the fragment right there in Taganrog. So that's just more proof of it, and it looks like the Russians are having safety in mind. They put cones around it to make sure that everybody's safe. Not that the missile exploded or anything right in Taganrog and they were not able to shoot it down, but at least they're keeping the people safe and it's not a road hazard. But anyways, we're moving into our next article here, and this one goes to Status 6 once again, and we're now getting the threats of Iranian missiles being fired from Russia. And remember, it has been some time now since Russia fired their last Iranian missile, which is an IRBM missile capable of carrying a nuclear warhead. It has been some time since then, but now we're hearing, according to US intelligence, Russia may launch another Iranian intermediate range missile at Ukraine in the coming days. But the US doesn't consider the weapon a game changer, which is kind of interesting, but that's the official US position. And I guess I would agree, as long as the missile is not carrying a nuclear warhead, I guess it wouldn't be a game changer necessarily, but this is an intermediate range ballistic missile, which has the ability to basically evade every air defense that Ukraine has, so I would say it's a game changer on that front. And also, if they are using a MIRV warhead on there, a multiple reentry vehicle warhead, that would also be a game changer as well. So it sounds like the US is trying to downplay this threat a little bit, probably just for diplomacy diplomacy reasons, but surely this weapon is very serious, and it was a very big deal when it was launched last time, because nobody knows if it's loaded with a nuclear, a warhead, or payload or not before it actually hits the target. So that is the big concern, is we don't know what's on board before it actually implodes, and that gives nobody any time to react whatsoever to potentially shooting it down. So that is a big deal, and once again, the U.S. is trying to play it down. But moving on here to our next post, this one goes to Geo Insider. And this is just more evidence here, basically suggesting that Russia might actually launch that Oreshnik here in the coming days, because this was on December 8th. The U.S. Embassy in Ukraine issued a warning calling for increased caution due to increased threats of missile and drone attacks in Ukraine, and they told the people inside of Ukraine to get ready to prepare to take shelter in case there was something launched from the Russian side that could attack a major Ukrainian city. So that is currently a big warning out right now from the U.S. Embassy in Kyiv, and right now we're now hearing the threats about the Oreshniks being launched once again. So that kind of lines up to what we heard last time. There was a U.S. Embassy warning before the last Oreshnik was launched, and this could be once again a prelude to it, just like we saw last time. But with that, we're now moving on to our next news article here, and this one's going to go to Nexta, and we're going to switch the topic just a little bit here, because apparently there's some drama going on between Zelensky and the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, because we just heard this morning that apparently the Hungarian Prime Minister called Putin without any provocation whatsoever. He just picked the phone up and called Putin to discuss the war in Ukraine, and Zelensky has sharply reacted to that by basically saying, quote unquote, "We hope that Orban at least refrains from calling Assad in Moscow to listen to his hour-long lectures as well." And this is not uncommon from Zelensky. Zelensky does not like it when other leaders call Putin, because he views it basically as breaking the isolation that Putin is currently experiencing, that the world's imposed on him, which in Zelensky's view and pretty much everybody else's view, that is not a good thing to break. Putin should be isolated in the corner to let him know that he's been acting quite badly, and Orban here, by calling him up in Zelensky's view, is basically breaking the isolation and letting Putin feel that he has some type of ground to stand on. So Zelensky posted a very long Twitter post explaining why he did not like the call, but we also got a response from Viktor Orban himself, who got into a Twitter tit-for-tat type of situation here. He said, "At the end of the Hungarian EU presidency, we made new efforts for peace, and we proposed a Christmas ceasefire and a large-scale prisoner exchange, and it's sad that President Zelensky clearly rejected and ruled us out today, and we did what we could." So Viktor Orban is playing the victim here a little bit himself, so very interesting to see. But Zelensky and Orban are not friends, and actually Zelensky does not like Orban whatsoever, and it looks like Orban here went out on his own to try to secure this peace, but actually did not include Zelensky in on the conversation. So very interesting that he's trying to secure peace, but without actually Zelensky being involved in it. Very interesting. But anyways, moving on from that, we're moving on to our next post, which goes to Nexta, and we do have some more information about Zelensky's NATO invitation that he is currently seeking. And of course, we all know that Zelensky has been seeking NATO membership for quite some time, but NATO has pretty much denied that because Ukraine is at war, and that is not prohibited, or that is actually not allowed for a country to join NATO while at war. So now Zelensky is proposing, basically to summarize all this right here in this post, Zelensky is proposing that maybe just the Ukrainian controlled portions of Ukraine could be admitted into NATO until the other parts are retaken by the Ukrainian armed forces. So once again, we're really not sure if this is the case. NATO's really kind of talked this down quite a bit. They don't seem very wild about it, and it seems like NATO's probably not going to let Zelensky into the alliance until the entire war is won completely and there's a conclusive victory on the Ukrainian side. So I think this is probably just Zelensky trying to find a new way to try to get some sort of NATO protection, but I really think it's highly unlikely that it's going to happen, but this is currently what's being asked for. But on the other hand, on some positive news here, we do have a post from World Translated, and we're hearing that the U.S. officially has approved the sale of life support and maintenance equipment for the F-16 fighters that Ukraine already has in their possession, and is worth $300 million, and the package includes JMPS mission planning systems, software, spare engines, spare parts, and also training materials. So once again, the F-16s have now been serving in Ukraine for several months now, and of course sending life support equipment is necessary to keep the fighters in tip-top shape, and it looks like we are now officially approving the sale of that, and it is heading to Ukraine. So the F-16s will be in good shape and maintained very well, and once again, they're trying not to void the warranty. But moving on here to our next post, this one goes to Visegrad24, and we're switching gears just a little bit from away from Ukraine and Russia to cover currently what's going on in Syria. And something very interesting right now that's happening, we're getting preliminary reports coming out of Syria that the Russian army in Kamishli, in Syria, of course, has been blocking the U.S. Army from entering the city and setting up roadblocks near the airport. So right now there appears to be, according to initial reports, a bit of a showdown between the Russian army and U.S. forces in Syria, but right now we really have very little information about it, but it sounds like there is some type of confrontation in the works. And also, just to give you an idea of exactly where the city is inside of Syria, we do have a Google map here showing where this is. So as you can see, this is the entire country of Syria right here, which has been recently liberated, of course. But up here in the top north part of the state of Syria, you can see there is the city of Kamishli, or Kamishli, if that's how you say it, because I'm not really good at pronouncing Syrian names, but it's right up here on the border with Turkey, and it looks like that is the area that Russia is currently holding out and preventing U.S. forces from entering. So I'm not really sure what's going on with that, but we will be keeping an eye on it, because it looks like there could be a direct interaction between the Russians and the U.S. forces that might have the possibility of maybe getting out of hand, but only time will tell. But with that, we're jumping into our next article here, which goes to Iran International, and we're getting some more word here that apparently President Vladimir Putin is seeking explanations for why Russia's intelligence service failed to identify the growing threat to Bashar al-Assad's rule in time, of course, the Bloomberg reports on Wednesday, citing a source close to the Kremlin. So we already know how it works in Russia. When Putin fails on some level, there always has to be a scapegoat, and basically this post right here lets us know that Putin is currently actively recruiting a scapegoat. He's looking for someone to blame for why Russia failed inside of Syria. So, of course, he's going to blame somebody, but only time will tell exactly who he's going to blame, but it'll probably end up being that military commander that was fired that was in charge of the Syrian response. But, of course, he was not an intelligence guy. He was a military official, so maybe Putin will pick somebody else to blame, but only time will tell. So that's currently happening right there. But with that, moving on to our next post here, this one goes to Haley Britsky, a reporter in Syria, and we're getting word of another major incident happening right now. Apparently, an MQ-9 American Reaper drone was accidentally shot down over northern Syria on Monday by the U.S. main partners in the country, the SDF, after they mistakenly believed it to be Turkish, according to multiple officials. So we are currently hearing that an MQ-9 Reaper was downed, but apparently it was by our actual partners in the country after they apparently believed it was a Turkish drone. So they were going to shoot down the Turkish drone, but they're not supposed to shoot down ours. So I really don't know what's going on with this right here, but apparently the MQ-9 has been destroyed by our own partners. So that is a current thing happening as well. But for our last piece of news of the day, we have some news coming out of the United States. We're switching gears to a different story here because so many people on our channel ask about this and we really don't have much information to share. But today we got our first shred of actual credible information coming from a U.S. congressman about this situation in New Jersey with the drones being spotted in the sky pretty much every night for the past month. And sadly, I won't be able to play the video because I don't want to get copyrighted by Fox News, because apparently this interview was conducted by Fox News, but this is nonetheless a sitting U.S. congressman here who sits on various different committees. But we can see here that Congressman Jeff Van Drew says that the drones flying over America are allegedly Iranian drones being launched from an Iranian mothership off the U.S. East Coast. So once again, the congressman sounded very confident in saying this, and he probably does have access to information that we are not privy to in the public, and this congressman is risking looking like a crazy lunatic if he's proven wrong, and he said this on national television. So quite crazy to see here. So I'm kind of like actually in between what to believe on this, because if it's true that Iran is launching drones into our airspace, that is a major national security threat. But at the same time, it's only the congressman saying this at the moment. So I'm really not sure what to believe, but I would tend to lean toward the side that the congressman is probably telling the truth, or otherwise, why would you simply say this with no evidence to back it up? It wouldn't make much sense. So right now, I'll leave it up to you whether or not you believe him, but it sounds pretty credible to me based on what we're hearing from the media. But to answer everybody's question about what's going on in New Jersey and New York, we still do not really know. This is the best information we have at the moment, and sadly, we don't know what else to say, because if we had the information, we would tell you all. But sadly, we are not privy to that information. But if we were, we would certainly tell you. But anyways, we are now moving on to, actually, we're not moving on to anything. That was our last post of the video and our last piece of news. So with that, if you enjoyed the video, please be sure to press the like button and also subscribe to the channel as well for more daily short war updates just like this one. And also, if you want to support our channel financially, you can go over to our Patreon page and sign up for a subscription there to support the channel that way, which is a very big help, because of course we're largely crowdfunded by the viewers, and it's you, the viewers, that make all this possible. And also, if you want to be filled in on the rest of the news happening throughout the day that we were not able to cover in the short war video, be sure to join us tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern on our nightly war news stream for all the other details that we were not able to cover right now. And with that, folks, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you all tonight, and bye-bye for now.